yard for the existing house because there is no effective backyard now, because the backyard that we're going to be taking for parcel for the new lot will eliminate the backyard. So we're going to have to create a backyard for the new house. So it is our intent to sell the existing house as quick as we receive final plat approval. We will be listing it for sale. I'm a realtor, and I'll be listing it for sale. We intend to fix up the outside. The inside of the house had a fire about 10 years ago and was fully remodeled at that time. The inside of the house is actually in pretty great shape. I was inside of it about 6 weeks ago. So the interior of the house really doesn't need anything. It's really just landscaping at this point. But we fully intend to clean up the landscaping and bring it back to what it was, because several years ago it was a beautiful property. Yeah, that's about it.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you. Go back to, since that was the rebuttal, I'm going to close the public testimony. Any more questions?
You're staring at me.
I am starting. Do you always have a question? I'll move along the line.
Move along.
Any more questions?
No questions.
Okay, any questions? Mr.
Back to me again.
Yes, I am.
My only real question is the sidewalks are fine, but the 12-foot street tree easement on the second lot, I don't know. That's just. I'm looking at the layout, and I don't know where they're even going to put a tree, to tell you the truth, because if it's 64 feet across that lot, by the time you throw a driveway in there, utility easements to go through there, I don't know where they're going to put a tree in that front yard anyways. It's going to have to be smack in the front yard to do anything, because the driveway's got to come from Locust.
From Locust.
So, I don't know. I guess if they're all right with it,
Maybe a thin tree.
yeah, it's got to be a skinny one.
You know what, I mean, who controls what kind
Well,
of...
he's right in that there's a very limited space because it's a narrow frontage. And so you're going to have a driveway, and then the tree's going to be right next to the driveway.
Right.
But most trees are planted in somebody's front yard, and it will be within 11 feet of the curb, basically. The other thing unique about, I mean, this is a fairly small lot that's being created for the new home, and because the sidewalk's actually going to be on private property, if there's a garage involved, usually people need to park outside the garage. They can't park over a sidewalk, so you need 19 feet before you have 5 feet from the property line for a sidewalk, and then you have another 19 feet to the garage so that the car doesn't overhang the sidewalk. And so that means you actually have a greater setback than the normal 20 that you would have from the property line. And so that's using up space as well. So it's going to be set back further than most houses would be because the sidewalk's on the private property.
My concern would be if on a lot that narrow and you plant a tree, obviously near the driveway, eventually, as the nature of trees happens to be, those roots will have a not good effect on the driveway or the sidewalk.
That can happen. It's a matter of the right tree in the right place, and that can be done. But you do want to pick the right tree.
And who picks the tree?
The city will pick the trees, and that's one of the reasons that we've changed the ordinance for the city to be doing it, because there were a lot of wrong trees planted in the wrong place over utilities, too close to streetlights and fire hydrants, and et cetera, et cetera. And so that's one reason the ordinance was changed, so that maybe we'd have a better chance of getting them in the right place with the right kind of tree and to solve some of those issues. Doesn't mean we'll solve them all, but we're hoping we can do a better job than leaving it to homeowners, home builders, home developers, et cetera. And it was also the fact that many of them weren't getting planted at all.
Okay. Any,
I don't know. I see it as they're going to have to move this whole lot around just to put a tree in. I mean, I can see them having to shift everything just so they can find a spot for a tree. And it's 30-foot rule, right? So they gotta have two.
Not necessarily. We have a policy where we encourage street tree planting plans. It's a
That's
very
true.
small one that then says, hey, you determine the only logical place for a tree, and if it's not every 30 feet, that's fine, because it doesn't make sense to do.
Well,
Because
yeah.
the ordinance was never meant to be, and people keep interpreting it that way. And so we talked about actually considering a text amendment, but the ordinance never intended that there be an actual tree every 30 feet. But it was a standard at which, so we knew that we would collect enough money to keep them alive for 2 years, because that costs as much as buying the tree itself. And so there was never an intent that there would actually be a tree every 30 feet, because you usually can't do that because of driveways and other spacing requirements that are in the ordinance. So if they'll do a street tree planting plan along with it, then clearly only one tree is going to be suitable at this site.
If you'll indulge me, Mr. Chair.
pardon me?
If you'll indulge me for a second. Mr. Schneider, are you all right with this? The street tree?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not a concern for us. I live on a 10,000 square foot lot, and I personally have planted 2 since I've been there, and I'm just now hearing that maybe I shouldn't have done that. Because I like trees.
Okay.
That's the reason why I live in more North Canby versus South Canby, because there's more trees in North Canby. So
This has been something that we've been over and over multiple
Many
times as
times,
to
yeah.
how it's supposed to balance.
Yeah.
And one of the issues that I have, especially in a small lot like this, is that you may have to move your positioning around just to make sure that you get this tree in there. But if you're fine with it, you're fine with it, and I'm good with that too. So I just don't want to make you go through a hoop that maybe you don't need to, especially on a small lot, trying to position everything. But okay, I'm good with it then.
Okay. Any more questions? Alrighty, then we'll move on to decision. I will entertain a motion to approve the request for a minor land partition of 356 Northeast 10th Avenue to create a second parcel, MLP 16-01.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we approve as written MLP 16-01.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
So could I raise a question? Actually, you need to amend it as written for condition number, make sure I find it. Is it number 3 or 5? Maybe I'm on the wrong page here. Yeah, it's number 5, condition number 5. You need to add in the triangular easement for the ADA
Oh, that's
ramp.
right. Sorry about that, Brian.
And I think that's it. It's the wording that I have on the slide rather than what's in the staff report. So if you just make that note, we'll make sure the right wording gets.
You want to
I
amend?
would like to add the extra easement on condition 5, but other than that, as written. Is that good enough for you, Brian?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any discussion on that? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There you go.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving along, we'll have Laney, you want a couple minutes?
I'm good.
Good, good.
Power through.
Okay, new business. There is no new business. We will have final decisions for approval, so entertain a motion for final, final decisions.
Would move that we approve final on CUP 16-01.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And then,
Do we need to mention it too here?
Yeah, I'd
Okay.
make sure you mention that you're making that one change to condition.
I would move that we approve MLP 1601 with the added easement on condition 5 for final.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And then I have those last pages there for you to sign later.
Okay, items of interest from the staff.
Right now, we do not have any applications that would be scheduled for the next regularly scheduled meeting on June 13th. However, we don't put the packet out for that meeting until the end of next week. Or is it 2 weeks from now?
The third.
Yeah, so it's June 3rd. So there is still a possibility something might come in, so just letting you know, we currently don't. But there's still a
So
chance.
meeting is up in the air.
Yeah, it's up in the air right now, and trying to think if there was, I hadn't planned on. Nothing's coming to mind that's earth-shattering news that you, oh, there was an item. Now I remember what it is. It's not a done deal yet, but it's looking very favorable in that our proposed budget for starting July 1st is going to move forward. And there's a budget item in there that is still there that would buy the Planning Commission tablets for use at the meetings. Very similar or about the same thing that the City Council has been using for some time. So I wanted you to be aware of that and to start thinking about it. And one of the intents is actually an efficiency thing for staff. It's one of the ways to overall reduce the amount of work on Laney.
Well, you could stop right there. We think that work builds character, see? And she's got plenty of character, so it must be working.
It certainly is. So one of the things that we could do if we could, instead of you carrying your notebooks to the meeting, you would be carrying the lovely
Yes.
pads, and we would explore and have a training session, et cetera, on how you load those with the email or from the city's website, the packet of information, and then if you needed to refer to it, you'd be able to turn on your pad here and to do that. And what that does is it saves us a lot of paper and copying time. And the more of you that we can get to use those, then the less, because the ideal would be not to have to create the notebooks at all. But we're not going to absolutely insist on that, but we're going to strongly encourage you to explore trying to use these and seeing if it'll work for you or not.
It'll be just fine. We can do it.
Brian, I do want to point out, while that sounds all well and good, I am in the paper selling business.
There we go.
And therefore, I encourage the use of paper and binders and paper clips and Post-it pads. But technology moves on apace, and that sounds like a great plan. Okay. That'll work just fine. So I look forward to that if it occurs.
Right.
Yeah. At this time, I will, okay, we have one more thing on the agenda, if I can find my agenda, okay. Items of interest from us to the staff. No? Don't got any words? Okay,
I
I
do have
will,
one actually. I got an email from planning, Eastern Planning or something like that. They're doing a,
Was that the one that,
I think I sent it back to you and going, what is this?
Yeah.
Over in Bend or something like that. They're doing like a 2-day seminar or something. How much do you know about that?
well, I think the one I'm remembering that you sent that I saw, actually, I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, I thought was a webinar.
Is it?
And so, I'm pretty sure it was a webinar.
I'll take a look
It was
at
a
it.
series of webinars that the Oregon chapter of the American Planning Association,
That's what it was.
and that's what caught your attention. And so it wasn't just one, but there were 3 or 4 over a period of time. And so I think I responded that we have the ability that if a planning commissioner, or ideally more than one, wanted to sit in front of a computer and watch this approximately hour-long webinar on a topic that's of interest to you, then we could invite you down to our offices or something and use one of the city's computers, and it's much more efficient cost-wise for 2 or 3 people to sit around the computer and listen than just one person, or each of you wanting to do it at your home on your computer and then getting reimbursed.
This one's actually, it looks like it's a 2-day in Bend.
Okay, so you were looking at a different one
Yeah.
then. That I
I'll
don't.
forward this to everybody
Okay.
and so we can take a look at it.
The most recent planning commissioner training session that's specifically oriented for planning commissioners will be at the League of Oregon Cities Conference in September. It's towards the end of September. And it's sponsored by the Oregon chapter of the American Planning Association and the Oregon City Planning Directors Association, which I used to be a member of. And so they're trying to sponsor one training session at least a year for planning commissioners to go. And I believe the conference is in Eugene this year. So it's a little ways to drive down there, but if you're potentially interested, I do condone those. They're good sessions. And I don't know if this one is aiming at a certain topic or not, because the brochure isn't out yet. But it probably
you'll
will be.
forward us that
Yeah,
information.
we'll let you see it.
Okay, I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you for coming.
I just forwarded that to everybody.